Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Today, I'm here to make my official final NBA All-Star predictions. Before we get started, a couple of things. First thing, I made a video on this about a month ago making my predictions, and a lot has changed since then. So it is very possible that some of these picks change in the next week or so before the entire All-Star teams are announced. So this is just in this exact moment what I'm thinking. Two, this is all my opinion. There are going to be snubs. I'm sorry. Many of your favorite players might not make it. It's just really hard to put all the people in here. I'm going to name my guys. I'm going to give my reasoning behind each of them just for a little bit because there are a lot of guys to get through. But overall, just not everyone can make it. Third, I'm going to start off with the Western Conference and get into the Eastern Conference. There are a couple injuries here and there, so I am going to name some injury replacements for those guys. I'll get to that when we get there. I think that's everything, but make sure to leave your all-star picks in the comment section below if there's someone I snubbed. Also, let me know down there. I've got this pool of players down here that I'm going to be picking from. This isn't everyone that could make the all-star game, but I think it's a pretty good representation of most guys. So let's get into it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Starting with the Western Conference, we've got at the starting guard position, we have Steph Curry and we have Ja Morant. Steph Curry has been an MVP candidate for pretty much the entirety of this season. The Warriors are a really good team, and he's been their best player. Even if he's slumping, it's still Steph Curry, and by most people's standards, he isn't slumping that bad, but because it is Steph Curry, it's been really bad in terms of his slump, but he has still been a really good player when we look at the season as a whole. So Steph Curry is 100% deserving of the starting guard spot. For the second one, I think there's a lot of different people that you could go through. I'm going to pick Ja Morant. I think he's been not only most improved player candidate, but an MVP candidate. The Grizzlies have been one of the best stories this season, and the way that Ja Morant has been playing, I wanted to reward him with this spot, so he is going to get that. At the starting forward positions, we have LeBron James first, then we have Rudy Gobert, and then we have Nikola Jokic. LeBron James, MVP candidate, one of his best scoring seasons ever, despite being 67 years old. He is carrying that Lakers team many nights at this point. Anthony Davis is coming back tonight as I'm making this video, so maybe he and Russ will kind of help him out a little bit more, but LeBron has really been putting this Lakers team on his back a lot of nights. He is deserving of this spot. I also think he'll probably be the captain as well. Rudy Gobert at one of the forward spots. He is pretty much the entirety of the Jazz defense. Without him, the Jazz would crumble and fall apart, to be honest. They have no real perimeter defense, and the only reason why they are a good defensive team on a lot of nights is because Rudy Gobert is such an impactful player on the defensive end. I know a lot of people don't like him, but Rudy Gobert, in my opinion, has earned a starting forward position in this All-Star game. And finally, at the center position is Nikola Jokic. Jokic is a monster. He's somehow one-upped his historically great MVP season. He's super efficient. He's grabbing more boards. The great playmaker he's always been, and somehow he's only gotten better at scoring as well. A Nuggets team that is really dealing with a million injuries between Jamal Murray, PJ Dozier, who they recently traded, Michael Porter Jr. Pretty much this entire Nuggets team it doesn't look like it should, and yet Jokic is keeping them afloat. He's a monster. He is my starting center. So those are my starters. When we get to the reserves, this is kind of tough. So there are 5 reserves and then 2 wild card spots. The reserves are same format as the starters, 2 guards, 3 front court positions, and then the wild cards can kind of be whoever. So starting with the first guard, I have Devin Booker. Booker has been a lot of nights the best player for the Phoenix Suns. They're the 1 seed out west. You could have him as a starter over Ja Morant. That's 100% possible, as well as Luka Doncic. I think either of those 2 guys could be starters over maybe like a Ja Morant, but this is where I have them right now. 2 phenomenal guards. Luka, especially recently, has made his name known in the MVP conversation as the Mavericks have quickly climbed up the standings, winning a ton of games recently, so he is deserving of this second spot. Once again, like I said, you could definitely start him, but for right now, I'm leaning to having him as a reserve. At the 3 position, we've got Paul George, followed by Draymond Green at the 4. And finally, the last front court spot I have is Karl Anthony Towns, if I can find him. So those are my 5 all-star reserves. Now, with Paul George and Draymond Green, they're both injured, and there's a possibility that either of them don't play again this season. So I am going to pick a couple of injury replacements for them, but I'll get to that after my wild cards. In terms of picking them, Paul George he was great, and he was really impactful for the Clippers, leading them far beyond a record than most people thought they would get without Kawhi Leonard. He is unfortunately out with an elbow injury. Like I said, it's possible he might not play again this season. So even if he doesn't play again this season, I think what he did in that span of time is more than deserving of a consideration here at the 3 position for the Western Conference All-Star team. At the 4, we've got Draymond Green. The Warriors look like a completely different team Without Draymond Green, his defense, his playmaking, his chemistry with Steph Curry, Draymond really is the engine that keeps that team running. And without him, they've really had a lot of horrible performances, at least especially when you compare them to what they had beginning of the season. If Draymond doesn't get healthy, this Warriors team really, their ceiling, I think, is a lot lower. Draymond is super impactful, and like I said, even if he doesn't play, he deserves this recognition. And finally, Cat, the Wolves are finally showing some promise after a lot of really tough seasons, and Cat has been the big reason why, so he does make the team for me. At the two positions following at the wildcards, we do have Donovan Mitchell, and we have Chris Paul. Both of these guys, I think you could even also make a case for them being starters or being here at the top 2 guard spots in the West reserves. All in all, they're all all-stars, so I really don't think it matters that much. This is just kind of the way I went with it. Donovan Mitchell, like I said, Rudy Gobert really is the defense for the Jazz, and a lot of nights Mitchell really takes over offensively. He's one of the best shooting guards in the NBA, and Chris Paul, it's Chris Paul. You know the impact he has with the Suns being the first seed out west and the best team in the NBA by far so far this season. He is similar to kind of a Draymond Green. Even if the stats don't show it, Chris Paul is the engine that gets that team going. Now, with Paul George and Draymond Green out, I am going to make a couple of injury replacements, starting off with DeJounte Murray. He could kind of play maybe like a 3 or a 4 position, even if he is a little undersized. That's kind of the way the All-Star game goes anyways. So he's going to take Draymond Green's spot. DeJounte Murray has been pretty much a walking triple-double this season, a great defender. He's really having his breakout season that many people thought he could have a couple years ago. And finally, Gilgeous-Alexander is going to make my All-Star team. Maybe it's biased. I don't really care. It's my video, so Shea does make the All-Star team for me. In the secondary replacement spot, he scored 29 or more in 6 of his last 8 games. He's been on a tear as of recently, scoring 30-plus points in most of his games since 2022 started. He's been a monster. Even if the Thunder aren't succeeding as a team that much, the way that Shea has been playing, in my opinion, deserves an All-Star look. So these are my Western Conference All-Stars. When we look at some of the snubs, maybe you could look at like an Anthony Edwards. A Brandon Ingram is someone that I really think could get one of these 2 replacement spots too. Andrew Wiggins is another guy who's been pretty good. D'Angelo Russell, Kristaps Porzingis, just as a couple more guys that I think have been pretty solid this season. Like I said, there's going to be snubs, so this is what I went with. Now, moving into my Eastern Conference starters, as my phone decided to lock on me. First, at the 2 guard positions, we have Trae Young and DeMar DeRozan. Trae Young has been one of the best point guards in the league this season. He's leading the Hawks now on a 4-game win streak. He's led the league in total points up to this point. He's just a great scorer, a great facilitator, and even if the Hawks are disappointing, it's not because of Trae Young whatsoever. Weirdly enough, DeMar DeRozan is considered a guard despite being a power forward most nights for the Chicago Bulls, so whatever, he gets here at a guard position. He will be moving in a second. We'll talk about that when we get there. DeMar DeRozan is an MVP candidate. He's really upped his game and made the people that thought his signing was dumb look really dumb themselves. At the 3 position is Kevin Durant. You know, I don't have to explain Kevin Durant to you. Similarly, I don't think I have to explain why Giannis is here. And finally, I also don't have to explain why Joel Embiid is here. To me, these 3 forward positions are a complete lock. You cannot have any other 3 guys here. Now, Kevin Durant, I don't think he's going to play due to his injury that is lingering. So to replace him, I'm going to move DeMar DeRozan to the 3, and I'm going to put Zach LaVine here at the 2. The way that those 2 have really got the Bulls going, it's not going to switch, whatever. The way that those 2 have got the Bulls going, the way that they have kind of kept that team up at a 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, or 3 seed now, I believe. They're behind the Miami Heat and the Brooklyn Nets. They're somewhere in that range. It changes pretty much every day, but Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, the way that those 2 have really kept the Bulls afloat, despite a ton of injuries, COVID protocol issues, they have been phenomenal, and so I think they're both deserving of a starting spot. Now, we move into the Eastern Conference reserves. I have at the first guard position, I have James Harden, and at the second one, I have Darius Garland. James Harden has been great. He really had that slow start to the season, but he's kind of, he's figured things out pretty well. So I'm impressed with the way that he's kind of reversed those things. He has kind of tried to keep the Nets afloat despite Kyrie being part-time and KD missing some time as well, and he's done a pretty good job. It's James Harden. And then Darius Garland. He has been so damn good this season. I wanted to give him this recognition. I could not leave him off this team with the way that he has been playing. He's been one of the better playmakers this season, a great scorer, and he's been one of the biggest reasons why that Cavs team has impressed so many people. At the 4 positions, we have Jason Tatum. Despite being kind of down on shooting numbers this year, he still is second in the NBA in total points. He just had a monster 50-point game a couple days ago. Jason Tatum is kind of figuring it out, and he still is a phenomenal player, even if his shooting numbers are down, which is kind of the case across the league. Jimmy Butler is also going to get a spot. Now, he's missed a lot of time, so I could completely understand if you don't have him on here, but in the time that he has been playing, he has been one of the best players in the Eastern Conference over the course of this season. He's putting up great numbers. He's great defensively, and when he does play, he is that Heat team's best player, and with him, the Heat have a chance to go pretty far out east. And finally, at the center position, I have Jarrett Allen. Once again, I wanted to get another Cav on this list from the way that they've been playing. It's just been a great team effort, and he's making that $20 million contract that he signed look kind of like a steal. Now we get into the final reserve positions, and we have Fred VanVleet, in my opinion, deserves to be on here. He has been so good as an undrafted guy. You could also, Pascal Siakam is also a guy from the Raptors that you could maybe consider to put on here, but I ended up going with Fred VanVleet with the way that he's played defensively, offensively, been super efficient. He just is the motor for a Raptors team that continues to give a lot of teams problems offensively and defensively. And finally, the last guy I'm going to put on this all-star list is Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, in my opinion, has really been kind of flying under the radar with Giannis and Chris Middleton both missing time. Drew Holiday stepped up in a big way, and he's putting up pretty great numbers, some of the best numbers in his career this season. Drew Holiday is just a phenomenal player. He's impacting the game so much winning-wise, and I didn't want to leave him off this list. So, guys that didn't end up making the list: Bam Adebayo, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Jaylen Brown is a big one. He is someone I wanted to get on here, but I just couldn't. Kyle Lowry is someone you could definitely try and fit on here in terms of impact. Chris Middleton, Evan Mobley, Domantas Sabonis, Pascal Siakam, amongst others. So, these are my all-stars. This is my pick. There are many other guys you could consider bringing here, but this is who I ended up going with. Let me know what your picks are in the comment section below. Who did I snub? Who did I make a big mistake leaving off? I appreciate all of your input on this. I'm excited for All-Star Weekend. I think I'm going to try and do some fun content for that, so if you have any requests, let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real One, say it back.